First impressions at Aurora Station. Marcus Chen stood at the observation deck of Aurora Station, Earth's most prestigious orbital habitat, watching the swirling blue marble of his home planet below. At 38, he built Quantum Core Industries from a garage startup into the solar system's leading quantum computing company. But this was his first time visiting the station's famous Stellar Garden restaurant. The restaurant lived up to its reputation. A massive transparent dome filled with exotic floating gardens and anti-gravity water features, where Earth's elite mingled with visiting alien dignitaries. Holographic stars twinkled overhead, carefully calibrated to match the actual star field beyond the station's shielding. Marcus adjusted his perfectly tailored graphene suit, a reminder of how far he'd come from his humble beginnings. The maitre d', a tall centaurian with iridescent scales, had just shown him to his private booth when he noticed the commotion near the restaurant's entrance. An elderly alien was struggling with the artificial gravity controls near her table. She appeared to be of the rarely seen Lumini species, her translucent skin seeming to capture and reflect the starlight from above. What caught Marcus's attention wasn't her appearance, but rather the reactions of those around her. Several well-dressed humans and aliens actively moved away, whispering among themselves. A Rigelian diplomat actually snorted in derision. Without hesitation, Marcus crossed the restaurant floor. His mother had taught him that true character showed in how you treated others when no one was watching. Except people were watching. He could feel their stares boring into his back as he approached the struggling alien. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Would you like some assistance?" The alien turned, and Marcus found himself gazing into eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. They were a swirling silver purple, and despite her apparently advanced age, they held a sharp intelligence that made him catch his breath. "How kind of you," she said, her voice carrying an odd harmonic quality that made it sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "These gravity controls can be rather troublesome for one as old as I am." Marcus noticed her hands trembling as they hovered over the control panel. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the controls. When she nodded, he quickly adjusted the local gravity field to match what he assumed would be more comfortable for her smaller frame. "Perfect," she sighed, settling into her chair. "You have a gentle touch with technology, young one." Marcus smiled, choosing to pull up a chair rather than immediately return to his booth. "I've had some practice. I work with sensitive equipment in my quantum computing labs." "Ah, you must be Marcus Chen of Quantum Core Industries," she said, her head tilting slightly. "Your work on quantum entanglement communication is fascinating." Marcus blinked in surprise. "You're familiar with our research. I make it a point to stay informed about interesting developments," she replied, reaching into a small bag that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. "Perhaps you would join me for tea. I have a blend from my homeworld that I think you might find illuminating." Something about the way she said illuminating made Marcus's skin tingle, but his curiosity won out over his caution. "I'd be honored," he replied. As she prepared the tea using what looked like water that glowed with a faint bluish light, Marcus noticed that other patrons were now actively avoiding looking in their direction. Even the waitstaff seemed to be giving their table a wide berth. The alien elder poured the tea into 2 crystalline cups that appeared to have been grown, rather than manufactured. The liquid inside swirled with colors that reminded Marcus of the aurora borealis. "Before we drink," she said, her voice taking on a more serious tone, "I should mention that this tea has certain properties. It allows those who share it to see truth more clearly. Would you still like to proceed?" Marcus studied her face carefully. Every business instinct he'd developed over the years was telling him this was more than a simple tea ceremony. Yet something deeper, perhaps the same instinct that had prompted him to help her in the first place, made him nod. "Then let us drink to new beginnings," she said, raising her cup. "And to those rare souls who choose kindness without expectation of reward." As Marcus lifted his own cup, he noticed a strange symbol seemingly floating within the liquid, a complex geometric pattern that reminded him of the mathematical constants underlying quantum mechanics. The tea tasted like starlight would, if starlight had a flavor, and as he swallowed the last drop, the restaurant around him began to shift and change in ways his mind struggled to comprehend. The elder's form seemed to grow more distinct, more real, while everything else became slightly transparent, as if reality itself was being filtered through some cosmic lens. And that's when Marcus Chen, creator of quantum computers and self-made billionaire, began to understand that his simple act of kindness had set in motion events that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The gift of the Star Weaver. The world around Marcus shifted like liquid crystal, reality bending in ways his mind struggled to process. The tea's effects made the restaurant's holographic stars seem to dance and pulse with new meaning, each point of light carrying information his brain was only beginning to decode. "Your quantum computers," the elder said, her voice now resonating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. "They barely scratch the surface of what's possible. Your species is like a child discovering that pebbles can skip across water, while the ocean of reality runs unfathomably deep beneath." Marcus watched in fascination as small motes of light began orbiting their table, forming complex geometric patterns that reminded him of quantum probability matrices. "Who are you?" he managed to ask, his voice sounding distant to his own ears. "I am known by many names across many worlds," she replied, "but you may call me Starweaver. I am one of the few who remember, from a race your kind would call the predecessors." The name sent a shock through Marcus's system. The predecessors were considered nearly mythical, an ancient species that had allegedly seeded the galaxy with the basic technologies that allowed faster-than-light travel. Most serious scientists considered them a fairy tale. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered. "The predecessors vanished over 50,000 years ago." Starweaver's laugh sounded like crystal wind chimes in a stellar breeze. "Vanished? No, young one. We simply stepped back to watch, to wait, to see which of our children would prove worthy of the inheritance we left behind." She reached into her shimmering bag and withdrew what appeared to be a small crystal, roughly the size of a ping-pong ball. Within its depths, Marcus could see what looked like galaxies spinning in miniature. "Your act of kindness was not the first time we have tested humanity," she continued, "but it was perhaps the most telling. In an age where your species has begun to grasp real power, where you can reshape molecules and harness quantum forces, you still possess the capacity for spontaneous compassion. This is significant." The crystal floated from her hand to hover between them. "This is a key, Marcus Chen, a key to understanding what your quantum computers are truly capable of. Your species has built devices that touch the quantum realm, but you have yet to realize that consciousness itself is quantum in nature. The barriers between mind, mathematics, and reality are far more permeable than you imagine." Marcus reached out hesitantly toward the crystal. As his fingers approached it, he felt a tingling sensation that reminded him of the quantum entanglement experiments in his laboratories. "Take it," Starweaver urged. "Consider it a return gift for your kindness. But know this, such knowledge comes with responsibility. How humanity uses what you learned from this will determine much about your species' future role in the galactic community." As Marcus's fingers closed around the crystal, his consciousness exploded with information. He saw quantum circuits not as mere arrangements of superconducting materials, but as living networks that could interface directly with thought. He understood suddenly why his company's latest quantum encryption protocols had been producing anomalous results. They weren't errors at all, but hints of a much deeper reality. "The tea's effects will fade soon," Starweaver said, her form beginning to take on a more ethereal quality. "But the crystal's knowledge will remain, integrating slowly with your understanding over time. Use it wisely." "Wait," Marcus called out, fighting to hold on to coherence as the world began to stabilize around him. "Why me? Why now?" Starweaver's form was becoming increasingly translucent, but her smile remained clear. "Because, Marcus Chen, Humanity stands at a crossroads. Your quantum technology is about to make a breakthrough that could either lead to unprecedented harmony or unimaginable destruction. We needed to know if those who held such power could be trusted with greater knowledge. She paused, her galaxy-filled eyes twinkling. And sometimes, the simplest tests are the most revealing. As reality snapped back into its normal configuration, Marcus found himself sitting alone at the table, the crystal cool in his palm. Around him, the restaurant's patrons had returned to their meals, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Only the Centaurian maitre d' showed any reaction, offering Marcus a deep bow as he passed, a gesture of respect usually reserved for visiting dignitaries. Back in his private booth, Marcus carefully placed the crystal on the table and activated his quantum-encrypted personal AI assistant. "Area," he said quietly, "cancel all my appointments for the next month and contact our chief quantum architect. Tell her I think I know why the Quantum Consciousness Interface project keeps producing those strange harmonics. We haven't been building a computer at all. We've been accidentally growing a bridge between minds." The crystal pulsed once with an inner light, and Marcus Chen began to understand that his life's work had been merely preparation for what was to come. Humanity's next great leap forward wouldn't be technological. It would be consciousness itself. Echoes of an ancient race. 1 month after his encounter at Aurora Station, Marcus's private quantum research facility in the Nevada desert hummed with unprecedented activity. The crystal from Starweaver sat in a specially designed containment field, pulsing with patterns that defied conventional analysis. But it wasn't the crystal's mysterious properties that had the facility's top scientists buzzing. It was what they'd achieved by following its guidance. "It's ready for another test," Dr. Sarah Hammond announced, her holographic presence flickering beside the experimental quantum interface chamber. Even through the projection, Marcus could see the dark circles under her eyes, testament to countless sleepless nights. The chamber itself looked deceptively simple. A reclined chair surrounded by a geodesic sphere of quantum processors, each node pulsing with a soft blue light that matched the crystal's rhythm. What made it revolutionary wasn't its appearance, but what it could do. "Begin test sequence 47, Marcus commanded, settling into the chair. As the sphere hummed to life around him, he reflected on how drastically his understanding had evolved since drinking that strange tea. The quantum interface activated, and Marcus felt his consciousness expand. It was different from the tea's effects, more controlled, more directed. Through the crystal's guidance, they'd learned to create a stable bridge between human consciousness and quantum states. But today's test was different. Today, they were reaching further. As Marcus's awareness spread through the quantum network, he felt other presences stirring. Not the clean, precise signatures of artificial intelligence, but something far more complex, echoes of consciousness that resonated across space and time. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Sarah's voice came through, sounding distant. "There, responding to your presence." Marcus focused his thoughts, trying to make sense of the swirling patterns of consciousness around him. Suddenly, a familiar harmonic voice echoed through his mind. "Well done, young one." Starweaver's thoughts merged with his own. "You've taken your first steps into a larger universe." Through their connected consciousness, Marcus could now see the truth about the predecessors. They hadn't vanished. They had evolved, transforming their entire civilization into a quantum-based existence. The physical realm had become too limiting for their expanding consciousness. "Your species stands at the same crossroads we once faced," Starweaver explained, her thoughts carrying centuries of wisdom. "You've begun to grasp that consciousness itself is the fundamental force of the universe. Physical reality is merely its shadow." Other presences joined them in the quantum space. More predecessors, their thoughts carrying impossible depths of knowledge and experience. Marcus felt like a child standing before an ocean of wisdom. But why reveal this now? Marcus projected his thoughts into the quantum framework. Why guide us toward this discovery? A chorus of thoughts responded, each carrying its own perspective. But Starweaver's voice rose above them. Because the galaxy is changing. The barriers between physical and quantum reality are thinning. Those who cannot adapt will face extinction. We chose you, Marcus Chen, because you proved that humanity's advancement hasn't come at the cost of its compassion. Images flooded Marcus's consciousness. Other civilizations that had discovered quantum consciousness technology, but had used it for dominion rather than understanding. He saw worlds torn apart by beings who had gained the power of gods, but retained the wisdom of children. Your simple act of kindness, Starweaver continued, demonstrated that humanity might be ready for the next great evolution. But the choice must be yours. We offer guidance, not salvation. Through their connected consciousness, Marcus began to understand the true purpose of the crystal. It wasn't just a key to quantum consciousness technology. It was a seed, capable of growing into a bridge between humanity's current state and what they could become. There are others watching, Starweaver warned, her thoughts turning serious. Those who believe younger races should be prevented from reaching this stage. They fear what humanity might become. Your species must prove them wrong. As the quantum interface began to power down, Marcus caught one last glimpse of the vast network of consciousness that the predecessors had created. It was beautiful beyond words, a symphony of thought and energy that transcended physical limitations. Back in the chamber, Marcus opened his eyes to find his entire research team staring at him in awe. The quantum processors were glowing with new patterns, and the crystal had changed color, now matching the exact frequency of human brainwaves. Dr. Chen, Sarah's hologram flickered with excitement. The data we just recorded, it's revolutionary. We're detecting quantum consciousness signatures from all over the galaxy. It's like we've just joined a universal network that's always been there, just waiting for us to evolve enough to log in. Marcus smiled, touching the crystal gently. No, Dr. Hammond, we haven't just joined the network. He paused, feeling the weight of history shifting around them. We've been invited to help build its next iteration, and our first test begins now. The crystal pulsed in agreement, and Marcus Chen, once merely a successful tech entrepreneur, began to understand that he had become something far more important, a bridge between humanity's present and its quantum future. The trial of humanity. The attack came without warning. 3 months after Marcus's breakthrough with the quantum consciousness network, a fleet of unknown vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. Their ships were like nothing humanity had ever encountered, crystalline structures that seemed to phase in and out of normal spacetime. They're called the Arbiters. Starweaver's voice resonated through the quantum interface in Marcus's Nevada facility. They believe themselves to be the galaxy's immune system, eliminating civilizations they deemed too dangerous to ascend to quantum consciousness. Marcus watched the holographic display as Earth's combined defense fleet moved to intercept the approaching vessels. You knew they were coming, he stated, not as an accusation, but as a realization. Yes, Starweaver admitted. This confrontation was inevitable. The crystal we gave you wasn't just a key to quantum consciousness, it was a beacon, announcing humanity's readiness to the galaxy. Not all would welcome your advancement. The quantum interface chamber hummed around Marcus as reports flooded in. The Arbiter's weapons were unlike anything in Earth's arsenal. They didn't destroy ships so much as erase them from reality, collapsing their quantum waveforms into nothingness. Earth's conventional defenses won't stop them. Sarah's hologram flickered urgently. But the quantum network, Marcus, I think I know why we were given this technology now. Marcus nodded, understanding flowering in his mind. He reached out through the quantum interface, feeling the crystal's power amplifying his consciousness. Across the globe, the other quantum research stations they'd established over the past months connected to his awareness, forming a symphony of human consciousness. The Arbiters believe that any species capable of quantum consciousness manipulation will inevitably use it for destruction. Starweaver explained. Your trial begins now, Marcus Chen. Show them what humanity truly is. Through the quantum network, Marcus could sense the Arbiter's consciousness. Cold, crystalline patterns of thought utterly devoted to their self-appointed role as cosmic gardeners. They saw younger races as dangers to be contained or eliminated, not as potential equals. Marcus broadcast his thoughts across the quantum plane, letting the Arbiters see into his mind, his memories. He showed them the moment he'd helped Starweaver in the restaurant, not because he expected a reward, but because it was right. He opened himself completely, revealing humanity's capacity for both great good and terrible evil, their struggles and triumphs, their fears and hopes. We are not perfect. Marcus projected his thoughts toward the Arbiter fleet, but we strive to be better. We learn. We grow. We help each other, not because we must, but because we choose to. The Arbiter's response came as a blast of cold, logical thought. Pretty words cannot hide potential threats. Your species has already developed weapons using quantum technology. You cannot be trusted with such power. Marcus felt other consciousnesses joining him in the quantum plane, his research team, then other humans connected to the network, all adding their experiences and perspectives to his defense of humanity. It wasn't a carefully constructed argument. It was the raw truth of human existence, with all its contradictions and complexity. You're right, Marcus acknowledged. We have developed weapons. We have fought wars. We have committed terrible acts. But look deeper. Through the quantum network, he shared humanity's greatest moments of compassion. Strangers helping strangers, enemies becoming friends, people sacrificing themselves to save others. He showed them Earth's artists, scientists, and dreamers, all striving to create rather than destroy. We don't claim to be perfect, Marcus continued. We claim only the right to try, to learn, to grow. The same right your own species must have had eons ago. The Arbiter's ships hung motionless in space as their consciousness processed this flood of human experience. Then, unexpectedly, Starweaver's presence flared in the quantum plane, her thoughts merging with Marcus's defense. I stand as witness, her consciousness resonated. I tested this human personally, and through him, humanity itself. They are ready for the responsibility of quantum consciousness. More importantly, they understand that with great power comes not just responsibility, but the obligation to help others grow. The Arbiter fleet's quantum signature fluctuated, their certainty wavering for the first time in millennia. Through the network, Marcus felt a shift in their consciousness. Not acceptance, not yet, but the beginning of doubt in their absolute judgment. Perhaps, the Arbiter consciousness finally responded. We have become what we sought to prevent, being so certain of our righteousness that we would deny others the chance to prove themselves worthy. The crystalline ships began to fade from normal space, their quantum signatures diminishing. But before they vanished completely, a final thought echoed through the network. We will be watching, humans. Make us wrong about you. As the immediate crisis passed, Marcus slumped in the interface chamber, mentally exhausted. Sarah's hologram appeared beside him, her face showing both relief and awe. What just happened? She asked softly. Marcus smiled tiredly, feeling the quantum crystal pulse warmly in response to humanity's first major test. We just proved that our greatest strength isn't in our technology or our weapons, he said. It's in our capacity to show others who we truly are, flaws and all, and still stand proud. The crystal flared briefly, and Marcus caught a glimpse of Starweaver's approval through the quantum plane. Humanity's trial wasn't over, it had only begun. But they had passed their first test, not through force of arms, but through the simple power of truth and compassion. Legacy of compassion. 5 years after the Arbiter incident, the observation deck of the new Quantum Consciousness Institute overlooked a transformed Earth. Cities now pulse with quantum-enhanced networks that connected minds as easily as old networks had once connected computers. The crystal Starweaver had given Marcus sat at the heart of it all, no longer a singular artifact, but the template for a new age of human development. Marcus stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching ships take off from the nearby spaceport, some physical, others merely quantum constructs moving through higher dimensions. Each carried humanity's ambassadors to distant worlds, sharing the lessons they'd learned about balancing technological advancement with compassion. Contemplating your legacy, Starweaver's voice chimed behind him. She appeared more substantial now that humans could perceive quantum states naturally, her form shimmering with complex patterns of thought and energy. Remembering where it started, Marcus replied, turning to face her, "One simple act of kindness in a restaurant. I still can't believe that was your test for humanity's readiness." Starweaver moved to stand beside him, her quantum form casting prismatic lights across the floor. The greatest tests are often the simplest. Power without compassion leads to destruction. We had seen it too many times before. Below them, a group of children played in the Institute's gardens, their young minds already adapted to quantum consciousness, sharing thoughts and dreams as naturally as breathing. They were the first generation to grow up with the gift of unified consciousness, yet they still chose to play physical games, to laugh, to skin their knees, and help each other up. "That's why you chose that moment, isn't it?" Marcus asked. "Not because I helped you, but because of how I did it." Indeed, Starweaver's form sparkled with amusement. "You helped without expectation of reward, without knowing who I was, simply because it was right." That capacity, to maintain compassion, even at the height of technological achievement, is rare in the galaxy. A holographic display activated nearby, showing the latest data from the Quantum Consciousness Network. Hundreds of civilizations now participated, sharing knowledge and experiences across vast distances. The arbiters had become observers rather than judges, their ancient certainties softened by humanity's example. "We've made mistakes along the way," Marcus admitted, thinking of the early accidents when people first learned to share consciousness, the conflicts that arose as society adapted to radical transparency of thought. "All species do," Starweaver responded. "The question is not whether you will make mistakes, but how you learn from them." Humanity's greatest strength has been its ability to maintain its fundamental compassion while wielding powers that would have corrupted other races. A quantum pulse announced the arrival of Sarah Hammond, her consciousness now permanently merged with the quantum network after her physical form had failed 3 years ago. "The new quantum cradles are ready," her thought form announced. "Another 1,000 children will be born with natural quantum consciousness abilities this year." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. Each new generation was born with greater capabilities, but thanks to the lessons learned from that first act of kindness, they were taught that power without compassion was worse than no power at all. "The galaxy is changing," Starweaver observed. Other races looked to humanity not for technology. They had that already, but for understanding how to wield it wisely. "Your species has become what we hoped. Teachers of balance." As if to emphasize her point, a quantum pulse arrived from deep space, another civilization reaching out, seeking guidance on ascending to quantum consciousness while maintaining their ethical core. Such requests came almost daily now. And it all started with helping an elder with her gravity controls. Marcus chuckled, the memory still clear after all these years. Starweaver's form brightened. Perhaps, or perhaps it started long before, in all the small acts of kindness that shaped humanity's development. The tea I shared with you didn't create anything new. It merely showed you what was already there. The quantum crystal pulsed from its central chamber, its light synchronizing with the thoughts of billions of humans across Earth and beyond. It was no longer just a key to quantum consciousness. It had become a symbol of humanity's promise to the galaxy. That advancement need not come at the cost of compassion. "Your work here is nearly done," Starweaver said softly. "The predecessors will soon need your help with a greater task." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "There's something beyond quantum consciousness." Starweaver's form shimmered with what might have been laughter. "There's always something beyond, Marcus Chen. The universe's greatest gift is that there are always new mysteries to solve, new ways to grow, new opportunities to show kindness." As if in response, the quantum network pulsed with the combined consciousness of humanity. Billions of minds working in harmony, yet each maintaining their unique identity and capacity for independent thought and compassion. They had proven that unity need not mean conformity, that power need not corrupt, that the greatest strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to help. Ready for the next chapter? Starweaver asked, extending her quantum form in what had become the universal gesture for sharing consciousness. Marcus smiled, reaching out to accept the connection. As long as it involves helping others, he replied, I'm always ready. The quantum crystal pulsed one final time, its light encompassing both human and predecessor, teacher and student, past and future. A reminder that in the vast quantum dance of consciousness, the simplest acts of kindness could ripple across space and time, changing the very fabric of reality itself. End. Would you like me to help you with anything else for this story? Perhaps a synopsis or a different perspective on certain events?